Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today we're going to be talking about the F2000. Second Assault is out for the PC and PlayStation 4 users, and now we get to use the cool new weapons that are available, the F2000 being the assault rifle. Now first things first, you got to unlock the F2000. In order to do this, you have to play on the Operation Metro map. You got to get 10 kills on Operation Metro, then you have to get 2 kill assist ribbons, which was a little bit difficult for me to do. If you just flat out kill the person, you don't get a kill assist, so you have to have a pretty high ticket server where you're going to shoot some people, not get the kills, and somebody else is going to finish them off enough to get 2 assist ribbons. Then you have to get an assault rifle ribbon. That's actually pretty easy to do. And after that, you are rewarded with the F2000 and this nifty little 1.6 times scope, which is only available to the F2000. This is a custom sight for the actual gun in real life. It's kind of big, it's kind of wonky. I don't know how many people would actually want to use this sight in real life, but it is made to go specifically on this gun. And I gotta say, in Battlefield, it's not bad. It does have a huge metal housing around the sight, so I pretty much opted for a red dot sight as soon as it was available. But it is interesting having a 1.6 times sight because there are no other sights in the game with that kind of magnification. And funny enough, unlocking this gun on Metro seems to be the right sort of environment, because if you're looking for accuracy and a weapon that's going to be good at range, the F2000 is certainly not it. Its strong suits are hipfire and rate of fire, and that's about it. It has a nice rate of fire at 850 rounds per minute, only firing slightly slower than an AEK. Now if you're familiar with the AEK, you know it deals out massive damage in close quarters, so the F2000 sits only slightly below that in terms of DPS. Now let's dive into the stats of this gun. We know it's great for hipfire and rate of fire, but is that going to be enough to actually pull through and make this assault rifle a good versatile weapon, or is it really going to be highly situational like so many other weapons in Battlefield? Alright, so we've got the stats up from Simthic.com here. It's got a nice bullet velocity of 600 meters per second, which is certainly decent for trying to hit moving targets or targets at range. The reload speed is a short reload of 2.7 seconds. That is crazy long. It's almost as long as the FAMAS. It has a long reload of 3.9 seconds. So if you're caught in close quarters with this gun, you have to reload. It's pretty much a death sentence. You're almost guaranteed going to die. And considering how good this weapon can be in extreme close quarters, having that reload time sort of negates any sort of benefits you get from rate of fire or hip fire capabilities. Let's move on to the recoil of this weapon, which is going to determine how accurate you can be for prolonged periods of firing. It's got a first shot recoil of 3 times. That means your first shot with this gun is going to kick 3 times harder than any of the follow-up shots. So anything you can do to negate your first shot recoil is going to help out a lot. I highly recommend the angled foregrip with the F2000. Looking at the side-to-side recoil, we have some of the highest on the charts. It is a 0.4 pull left and a 0.5 pull right. Almost equal, which means it's going to be very hard to try and compensate for the side-to-side recoil. And high side-to-side recoil, especially equal side-to-side recoil, makes any gun pretty hard to use for longer range targets. Now what you could do, and what I tried to do with the F2000, is to put attachments on here to try and compensate for some of the crazy recoil. So I put an angled foregrip on here to reduce the first shot recoil, and then I put a compensator on here to try and reduce that side-to-side recoil as much as possible. It helped out somewhat, but not enough. And the problem with putting attachments on to try and fix problem areas with weapons is that usually if there's a problem area with a weapon, then you may as well just try not to use it for that circumstance at all. If you want a gun that's good at a specific thing, like range shooting, then use a gun that's good at range shooting. I find it's better to just try and play a weapon to its strengths. The strength of the F2000, if you look over on the right hand side, is its hipfire. It has a 2.25 standing hipfire accuracy, which means that if you put a laser sight on here, it's going to further increase that hipfire accuracy. If you put a ergo grip on here, that's going to help your accuracy while moving, and now you can have a platform that's pretty decent for moving and shooting at the same time. The problem with this is that when you're going for a gun that's very good at hipfire, you should be expecting extreme close quarter combat non-stop. Getting into close quarter combat isn't difficult. Staying in close quarter combat is very difficult, and you usually need a very good weapon in terms of reload capability. The long reload on the F2000 means that you're going to have to try and find a good place to hide, or be able to run away or switch to your sidearm before you're able to get enough time to actually reload this weapon in close quarters. And I was killed over and over and over again trying to reload this weapon, playing it to its strengths. Now when it comes to assault rifles and playing the assault class, for the most part you're going to want a bit of versatility with any of them, and that's really where the F2000 falls short. Its accuracy at medium to long range is just atrocious. The amount of side-to-side recoil makes medium and longer range engagements very, very hard, because you're going to be swaying the gun around so much that you're just going to waste so much of your ammo. I found that on average at medium to longer range engagements I'd have something like 8 shots left in a magazine, or even less, just after trying to kill one person, and that's pretty low for me personally. I usually like to have a decent amount of ammo left over in case I have to deal with a secondary target, which I never did with the F2000. You'll see me here just tap firing the gun to try and pick off targets at extreme long ranges, and it is capable of that, but who wants to tap fire at longer ranges? I would much rather burst fire, especially if you can hit people with multiple shots of that burst. The M416 is perfectly capable of downing people at longer ranges while in burst fire mode. So as you can see here, tap firing somewhat capable, but ultimately not ideal, and if you're up against anybody who's got a decent weapon, they're going to take you down if you're trying to tap fire. Now looking at other things other than the performance of the weapon, I do think it's kind of cool that since the Battlefield 3 version of this weapon, they've added on the sling, the official sling for the F2000, which is how I guess you would essentially distribute the weight of the weapon when you're not holding it. And it's kind of cool that they put in that bit of detail. It's a cloth strap that goes around the stock of the gun. One thing that was in Battlefield 3 that made its way to Battlefield 4, which is kind of a bigger inaccuracy of the weapon, is the shell ejection. They keep showing the shells coming out the side of the gun, and there is no ejection port on the side of the F2000. The shells themselves actually drop out the front of the weapon. This is to essentially allow you to have an ambidextrous gun that has no side-to-side shell ejection. So that's kind of a really cool feature of the F2000, and it's not really displayed in Battlefield. And that's just being nitpicky, but for any gun enthusiast out there, they're probably going to notice, and it's probably going to be something that irks them a little bit. And the only reason why I mention this is because Battlefield 4 has some of the best weapon detailing I've seen in any video game. The fact that they have the sling on here and the custom F2000 sight that is removable is a very, very cool feature, something that I wasn't really expecting to see in the game, but then having shells fly out the side of the gun seems like just a silly oversight once you've put in so much work to modeling the gun and making other aspects of it so realistic. Now during my play session with the F2000, I managed to unlock all the basic attachments. I didn't quite yet get into the battle pack unlocks for it, but through the basic attachments, some of my favorite loadouts for this were using the ergo grip and laser sight to have that really good hip fire. And then if I wanted to try and make it a little bit more versatile, I would put the angled grip on there and a compensator, or sometimes a stubby grip and a compensator, to try and help me hit some of those targets at long range. If the vertical recoil is a little bit too much for you, the first shot recoil is too much, then use the angled foregrip. If you feel like you've gotten good and you can compensate for it, then try using the stubby grip. Ultimately though, there's very little reason to use the F2000 other than aesthetic appeal. Comparing it to other guns like say the AEK beats out the F2000 in almost all categories. Sure, it doesn't have as good of hip fire, but in terms of its aiming down sight accuracy and its capability to deal with targets at medium range, it is so much more capable than this weapon. But if you really do want to play the F2000 to its strengths, pick a close quarter map, and you can certainly do that on Operation Metro. It is just as clustery as it was before in Battlefield 3, if not a little bit more. I have to say the addition of V40 minis in Operation Metro has just made it pure insanity. The LVG grenade launcher is quickly becoming a favorite in Operation Metro, as you can just bounce it off of any corner and get tons of kills. I still have tons of playing to do on the second assault maps before I give it my full review. Overall though, that pretty much wraps it up for my review of the F2000. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.